So if you just state your name and how long you've lived in Rockaway.
Hi, my name is Lenique Interview, and I've actually been a long-time Rockaway resident. I've lived here all my life, and I'm currently 32 years old.
Could you give us maybe like the general layout of kind of where you live or in this whole entire area?
Well, with the entire area of Far Rockaway, it's very diverse. We have a large population, which would be considered a melting pot. From Beach Ninth down would be a predominantly Jewish population, where you would see a lot of the families coming and going to synagogue on the weekends, as well as, you know, the different school children. Then from Beach 9th Street up, you have a more diversified population with African Americans, Asians, Caucasians, as well as Hispanics. Then you have from way down where the Jewish population starts to up in Beach 50s, it would be called Far Rockaway, which is under one zip code. Then you have, from past Beach 50th, you have Auburn, which is another zip code, and up until maybe about the 80s, which starts Rockaway Beach. And then past the 80s, up into the 100s, would be Rockaway Beach. After the 100s, would be called Rockaway Park. And then past, like, say, 120th Street or so, you would get Neponset as well as Reese Beach and Breezy Point, which is actually a gated community. And each block, as you go through Breezy Point with the community, each block is actually gated, and you have to have a pass in order to get to the specific block you live on. And if you have visitors, you have to let the security guards know when you're having visitors come over to visit, so that way they know to expect them.
Gotcha. So we were driving through kind of like along Rockaway Beach Boulevard and down Seagirt Avenue, and we saw like a lot of community centers. You know, and most of them next to public project housing. What do you think the function of that is, and like how is that kind of played into the community?
The purpose of the community centers, either within the housing authority properties as well as outside of the properties, would basically be an outlet to allow children to not only do their homework and socialize with their friends and other schoolmates, but to build relationships with their peers as well as adults in order to learn respect and to learn trust. And it's very good in a way because you have adults who genuinely care about their community, and they choose to take care of other people's children, even if it's for a few hours or even for a weekend. But it helps the children to maintain relationships with adults that they can consider trustworthy.
Absolutely. Well, could you kind of give us a few lines about kind of the new development and how like there are new condominiums kind of being built and how that kind of plays in relationship to the projects and the community centers, and like kind of what's the tension, if there is any tension, or what's that relationship there?
As far as general Rockaway residents' reactions towards the gentrification of Far Rockaway, personally myself, I see that change is good, but I think that certain types of changes, which do not include all of the residents, I see that as being detrimental to the general well-being of the residents of Far Rockaway. And I do believe that there are some people who feel resentful toward a lot of the new developments because they feel that they're not included in those new developments. They're not being created for people to want to move up and be able to experience a better lifestyle of their own. It's almost as if they're being shut out.
I see. All right.
So in being shut out, does that apply to primarily one social group, one minority, or do you feel that that's just like the minorities in general?
I believe it may apply to minorities in general that may be, like, say, lower or maybe middle class, that may not be able to afford the prices of the condos, being that they are newly built, they are new construction. They will incur high prices. Although they do offer tax abatements, which may be good, but how are you going to be able to pay your mortgage if you are not able to get into the condos?
Okay.
But the one thing I did see is, like, I would say maybe within the next year, they're going to be building a major stop and shop in that area, which would definitely be able to provide jobs for minorities in case they're not able to get jobs within their living area, because a lot of people have to commute to Brooklyn as well as to Manhattan in order to find proper work in order to afford where they live.
Okay. So you were telling us that you work outside of the Rockaways, right?
Yes.
And most people here have to commute, like you just said, to Manhattan, to Brooklyn. What's that commute like? How does that affect the community in having a mainly, this is residential and there really aren't jobs here? What's the effect of that?
The effect is basically people, they love to live here because we have the beach here, as you've seen, but it's not very conducive to a work environment because there aren't very many opportunities as there would be in a large area, say as in Manhattan or Brooklyn. And if there were work opportunities here, they wouldn't be as high paying as they would be in outside boroughs. Mm-hmm. And with the commute, it can be very tedious because it's at least an hour to get into Manhattan. And during rush hour, you never know how packed the trains may be, and you may have to be waiting for 15, 20 minutes just to get on a train to get to your destination once you hit Manhattan.
I guess one final question. The Rockaways they are famous for the beaches, as you said.
Yes.
Can you just kind of maybe personal memories or kind of touch in an anecdotal kind of way about your experience with the beach and maybe as a child growing up and what you used to do and how that used to be?
Well, being that I love water a lot, I used to always go into the ocean, but my parents used to always say, don't go in past your knees because there's a drop.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's very true. If you go past a certain point on the beach, there, you might say, okay, I'm up to my knees now, but then once you step past that drop, you're almost over your head.
Wow. Oh, my goodness.
Because you know what it is? As water comes up and laps, it erodes the beaches and the sands kind of wash away. Yeah. And right before beach season begins, they have to dredge a lot of sand from in the ocean back onto the beach in order to build it and make it pretty much even.
Oh, I see.
And then you have way up in the hundreds where there is absolutely no beach, it's just mainly water. You have a lot of surfers who come there to catch a few waves and stuff like that. So, it's pretty diversified as far as beachgoers, but in certain areas it's kind of, I wouldn't say exclusive, but I don't necessarily see a lot of African Americans going towards the hundreds in order to actually surf.
Okay. And what we notice is that the boardwalk seems to divide very clearly the residences and the beach, and at some points it almost seems like it closes off the beach. Did you have that feeling, or is the boardwalk a highly populated area? We've read that in the past people always hung out on the boardwalk.
Yes, it's a highly populated area, especially during the summertime. And I wouldn't necessarily look at the boardwalk as a divide. I see it as a bridge point between the residential areas and the beach. Rather than being able to just walk from the building to the beach, you have to have some sort of concrete area in order to step onto in order to get to the street or to get to the beach.
But it's still definitely a central point in
definitely
the summer life here and the society. Okay. So, you wouldn't say, even though maybe there isn't the bungalow culture that there used to be in the Rockaways, it still is a summer life culture. There still is a strong...
But the reason why the bungalow culture has pretty much dwindled down is because a lot of firemen have seen it as fire hazards, being that they're built so close together. If one catches on fire, on an entire row of bungalows can catch on fire. So it would be very important if they decided to build up the bungalow community again, to space the bungalows to a point where they're close together to build a close-knit community, but they're far enough so that if a fire does occur, it won't be a domino effect where it's one and then five more, like within 10 minutes.
Okay. And when there was the strong bungalow communities, it tended to be that the people who lived in the bungalows only came for the summer, and the people who lived here year-round at first were an African-American population that were, preparing the bungalows for the summer community. Right now, do you feel that the people who live here year-round are still predominantly African-American, or is there a variety? Has it become more, Irish year-round, or is it kind of just a melting pot like you were saying before?
I would say it's pretty much still a melting pot, as I stated previously, only because a lot of Irish people, I haven't seen a lot of them in the area. I do believe that they do live here, but I just think that they kind of create their own enclaves and stay to themselves, being that a lot of them don't speak English. But the ones that do speak English, they do tend to diversify their own cliques, if you will, and they, you know, hang out with different types of people to learn different new experiences and have as much fun as they can along the way.
Awesome.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.